Welcome back to the Age-Old Reason. Yesterday, President Trump spoke at the Department of Justice in his usual fact-free and loose campaigning style. It was belligerent and regularly used authoritarian language. Even though this is not normal, it's normal with this president, which is part of the problem. Just keep in mind that it's not common for a president of the United States to speak to the Department of Justice in this way. The Department of Justice, in order to protect its independence and integrity of law enforcement, traditionally doesn't have the president speaking to them like this. In the last 25 years, only President Bush and Obama have spoken once to the DOJ. In 2015, he stopped by for a retirement ceremony for Attorney General Eric Holder. And before that, Bush spoke once for a ceremony that was naming the building after Robert F. Kennedy, who served as Attorney General under his brother, John F. Kennedy. These were ceremonies. Trump's speech was not that. This was a blistering fascist speech designed to scare media from producing any critical coverage of his administration, deeming it illegal in his eyes. Trump promised to defend free speech as he called for prison sentences of his political rivals, any law enforcement or legal entity that dared call him out on his various crimes. So let's talk about Trump's speech. Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General, introduced him with a small speech. Pam Bondi has a long history with Trump. Pam Bondi was the Attorney General in Florida when she refused to indict or check for fraud with Trump University after President Trump gave her a donation. In 2018, she went after Obamacare with 19 other attorney generals to try to get rid of pre-existing conditions protections. She also, in 2020, supported Trump in his rigged election lawsuits of 60 of them, and they didn't win shit. Pam says that Trump is going to make America safe again and get all the illegal aliens out of her country. And then she specifically called out Stephen Miller as the unsung hero. Stephen Miller is obsessed with reducing immigration and is known to favor writings of white supremacists. Miller has been the driving force between the separate immigrant children from their parents at the border policy. Pam then talks about fentanyl, cartels, that they're going to deport and lock them up for the rest of their lives. And under the last administration, cartels could walk in and out of our country with impunity. They better live in fear because we're coming after them. Pam Bondi also said that her great team gets to work for the greatest president of the United States ever, and he will never stop fighting for us, and we'll never stop fighting for him. They're loyal. Trump enters and immediately talks about how he broke the all-time record for crowd. Trump says that we're turning the page on 4 long years of corruption, weaponization, and surrenders to violent criminals. We are restoring fair and equal impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. He calls out fake news, saying that what are they going to do about law enforcement? I've already done most of it by appointing the people I appointed. Calls out Pam Bondi and says, they do most of it. I don't do it. They do it. Right, Pam? As the crowd, as they laugh, you are so tough, and they just don't know it yet. And there's an audible gasp by the crowd. He then thanks Pam Bondi. He thanks Kash Patel and Emo Above. Kash Patel is the new FBI director. He wrote a child's book where he was the sidekick of Donald Trump, who was the king. That's all you need to know. Emil Bove was the acting attorney general before Pam got in, and he was the one that got all the attorneys and prosecutors in the Southern District of New York together and threatened them. They had to drop the Mayor Eric Adams case or they would be fired. Corruption. Then he talked about how he thanks General Flynn for being in attendance. You know, the one that lasted like 3 weeks before he had to resign from the first Trump administration. He also pled guilty to lying to the FBI. This is where Trump starts attacking the DOJ he's speaking at. Trump says there's a lot of things to solve, so proud of the people in this room, but first we must be honest about the lies and abuses that have occurred in these walls. Unfortunately, in the recent years, a corrupt group of hacks and radicals within the ranks of the American government have obliterated the trust and goodwill of the people built up over generations. They weaponize vast powers of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies and try to thwart the will of the American people. He moves on to attacking them for Hunter Biden's laptop. He says that the DOJ spied on my campaign and launched a hoax and disinformation operation one after another, broke the law on a colossal scale, and prosecuted my family, my staff, and supporters, saying that these are really bad people, really bad people. They just tried to turn America into a corrupt, communist, third world country. By the end, the thugs failed and the truth won. Freedom won, justice won, democracy won, and above all, the American people won. Trump said there's no more heinous betrayal of American values than to use law enforcement to terrorize the innocent and reward the wicked. He said that there we're doing at a level that's never been seen before. That's exactly what you saw with Joe Biden and Merrick Garland and their cronies. Trump said they set loose violent criminals while targeting patriotic parents at school board meetings. They dropped charges against Antifa and Hamas supporters, not the same thing, anti-fascist, while labeling traditional Catholics as domestic terrorists. Then he thanked the Catholics for the vote. Trump said they imported illegal alien murderers and drug dealers and child predators from all around the world into our country while putting elderly Christians and pro-life activists on trial for singing hymns and saying prayers. They went to jail for that. Biden turned the Department of Justice into the Department of Injustice. Trump said those days are over and they're never coming back. Trump then says, so now that I'm the chief law enforcement officer in the country, I will insist upon and demand full and complete accountability for the wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave us a mandate few people could possibly understand. So basically, you're going to do what I say, and I'm the chief police officer. Trump said the American people demand us look at corruption. We will expel rogue actors and corrupt forces in our government. We will expose their egregious crimes and severe misconduct, which levels you've never seen anything like it before. It's going to be legendary. And it's going to be legendary for the people that are able to seek it out and bring justice. We will restore the scales of justice in America and ensure that such abuses never happen again in our country. That's why on day one I signed an executive order banning all government censorship and directing the removal of every bureaucrat that conspired to attack free speech and many other things and values. So he makes it sound like there are active investigations of his political rivals and that their crimes are going to be known soon and they're epic. And they said specifically it's going to be legendary. And it's going to be legendary for the people that seek it out and bring justice. The people in the room. Go do my bidding. He also talked about how they won 2,750 districts this time and 505 for Kamala. About a month ago, he said 2,600. So somehow in the last month, 135 more counties were created and voted for Trump. Imagine that. Loose and fast with the facts. He talked about how we'd never seen it before. And the map of the United States, it's all red. Red for Republican, not communist. They would like to see it turn red for communist, but it didn't turn out like that. Then he talked about he stripped security clearances for intelligence agents that worked on the Hunter Biden laptop. He revoked clearances for Jack Smith, the person that was prosecuting him, and crooked law firms that aided in their partisan prosecutions. He also terminated clearances of the Biden crime family and said that Biden would have been convicted, but he was incompetent, so they said let him go. And he made a joke about, I'd rather be found guilty than be found incompetent, which is kind of funny. Trump then talked about how he pardoned hundreds of political prisoners, the J6 folks, and talked about it was a great honor to fire James Comey. Then he said they had planned to build a new FBI building in Maryland, a liberal state, and said, but that has no bearing on what I'm about to say, but we're going to stop it. It has bearing on what you have to say. Then he attacks the D.C. mayor and officials. He says, I'm getting rid of all the tents, all the homeless people. Get rid of them. Then he talked about Bobby Knight for like 10 minutes. Trump then referenced his ears throbbing, and it's a miracle he survived the assassination attempt. Then he talked about eggs and gas prices. Then he referenced Eileen Cannon, who was a judge in Florida who dropped his case about the confidential or classified documents in Mar-a-Lago after the FBI raided. He said she was an absolute model of what a judge should be, strong and tough, and lets me do whatever I want, and it's going to drop the criminal case. He likes corruption. Then he started getting into how the lawyers and the media are attacking judges that work for him. He spoke about how the Supreme Court judges would be overcome by all the horrible things they say about them. They are playing the ref. How they treated the justices, they're treating them badly. They don't want to be accused of gross incompetence, but what they do sometimes, they get weak. A majority of the time they do. He's putting pressure on the Supreme Court to rubber stamp anything he wants. Then he talked about CNN and MSNBC and how they literally write 97.6% bad about me and are arms of the political party and are corrupt and illegal. What they do is illegal. It doesn't matter how big of a victory I have. It makes no difference. These people are going after me. Schumer did the right thing. These networks and newspapers are no different than highly paid political operatives. That has to stop. It has to be illegal. It's influencing judges and changing law, and it can't be legal. The overall takeaway is that Trump, in front of the DOJ and FBI as the chief law enforcement officer of the land, said that all investigations that targeted him were simply because of weaponization and corruption. The 34-time felon said the DOJ should target his political rivals and media outlets that don't support him because they're illegal.